Hey everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I want to start the reading vlog for my 100th book of the year, and this is also going to be a book that I read for a read-along that is hosted by Cleo on the channel Bemused Bookworm. This is her December book for her dragon read-along. I already read the Winnowing Flame trilogy with her, and so in December we're going to read Tooth and Claw. I also got this book from Cleo for this readathon as a Secret Santa, which is like very funny because I pressured her to put this as the December book, but I didn't have a copy, and so for the Secret Santa she got me the copy, so now I can read it in time and as my 100th book of the year, which is very exciting and I can't wait to get into it. Now, the way this works is that I will always update you after 25%, so when I'm a quarter through the book, when I'm halfway through the book, 3/4 through the book, and then when I have finished the book, we will do the final wrap up. And I hope this will be a very quick read, it's not very long, and I hope we will have lots of fun reading it. Okay, so I'm now a quarter of my way through Tooth and Claw. I'm even a little bit further in. I'm on page 86 right now, and I thought I'd give you my first update. So in this book we are following a family. I have a hard time pronouncing the name. I would say something like Argonin, and they are a dragon family. So we have the father and then 5 children. We have the oldest son, who is a pastor. We have the oldest daughter, who's already married to a very powerful man and has her own family. Then we have the second son, who is living in the city. And then we have 2 young daughters, and those still have to find husbands. And at the beginning of the book, the father dies, and we see what happens with that. We see the consequences of his death, the way that that reshapes the family in like the way they live, but also in the way they have their relationships with each other. I must say, in this first quarter of the book, there is already so much drama. And basically the way this works is that when a dragon dies, it is eaten because the flesh of a dragon gives power to the other dragons that eat it. And so the first kind of conflict we see in this book is about the corpse of the father and who can eat how much of it. And there's also this thing that when the children are very weak, they're also eaten by either their parents or their siblings. Yeah, basically that is made to keep the strength in the stronger children. So there's a lot of like terrible stuff going on in this book that, if you think about this with like human morality, is very, very bad stuff. Now, why people compare this to Pride and Prejudice is that the way the society is structured has very much a Regency feel to it. So for the women, it is important to find husbands. They don't really have anything else to do. They don't really have a place in society. So for example, the male dragons, they have claws, and the female dragons only have hands, so they're not seen as able to protect themselves. And then also, when a male dragon and a female dragon are in very, very close proximity, it will change the color of the female dragon, and the more they are like maturing and being mothers, the redder they turn. And so if a young female dragon who's not married suddenly starts turning pink, that is a sign that she's not like very virginal anymore and stuff like that. So you have this like very, very restrictive society for the female dragons, and then the male dragons have to be the protectors. And yeah, there's already like so much going on in this first quarter. So I'm definitely intrigued to keep reading this book. So far, there isn't really a character that stands out to me in a positive way. I think I like the one sister, Salendra. I think I like her best so far, because she's a little bit more outspoken and kind of like fighting for what she wants in her life. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're following the different members of this family on their journeys now that their parents are dead, and they kind of have to fight for their position in this society. And yeah, it's just like kind of survival of the fittest meets kind of very strong social code similar to like Regency era. So yeah, I think I will continue reading this now and we'll see how it goes. So I made it to chapter 10, and with that, I'm a little bit more than halfway through the book. And this is still pretty wild. We are mainly following the sister that I mentioned yesterday. I still do not remember the name, Salendra, and her adventures that she's going on now. She is sent to live with her brother, who is the pastor, and because of that, she's introduced to this very wealthy family, and the family heir of that wealthy family is kind of interested in her, but it's like not a very accepted interest because their stations are so different. So yeah, we're following around with them a little bit more, but we also see some of the other people in the family and what's going on with them for now. So this book is just really wild. If you're uncomfortable with people discussing eating children and killing people because they're weak, then I would not recommend this book. Even though obviously this deals with dragons, they still have such a human feel to them because they are the main characters, and while they are described as dragons, as having scales, as being very large and stuff like that, as flying, you still read them as like kind of human because just they have these thoughts and this like very restrictive social order that feels so human. So when they talk about how their society works, it is very hard to read, and it's definitely a very wild book. And if you hear this compared to Pride and Prejudice, do not expect this to be cozy and romantic in that kind of way. It's more the restrictive nature of the society and how it works, and how limited these dragons are by their position in society and their gender. That is comparable to Jane Austen, I would say. So yeah, we'll definitely continue reading this. It is like just such a wild read, so it is definitely easily holding my attention, but at the same time I'm like very worried about some of these characters because this is all about like being the biggest, the strongest, the fittest. And a lot of the characters we're following are not that, but then they're also pressed into this strict society. So it's also about being born into the right family, having a lot of money, and obviously those two things go hand in hand, and you can really see how a lot of the dragons, they never have the opportunity to become strong and to lead their own lives. And especially with the other sister, Hainer, maybe? I don't know how to say her name. she is considering the fate of the servants, because the servants as well as the pastors have bound wings, so they cannot fly and they're not allowed to take off these bindings because it is a sign of their servitude. But while for pastors it also signals their immunity, which means that they cannot be challenged or eaten by other dragons. With the servants, they do not have that same protection. It's basically just something to hinder them from having power and being strong, basically. So yeah, that's how it's going. It's definitely a very interesting read and very different from what I expected, but not in a bad way. So let's continue on. This is going to be such a boring vlog because I'm literally just sitting here reading the book, but I am now 75% into Tooth and Claw. There isn't really much more to discuss apart from the things I have already mentioned. There have been some terrible things that have happened. There have also been some things that give you that glimmer of hope where like maybe this can turn out okay. But I think it is like a turnout okay in the Jane Austen sense, and you still see that this world is so deeply flawed that even though things might turn out okay, it's kind of not okay, if you know what I mean. So I am definitely hoping for the best for these characters, while at the same time knowing that with the way this world works for them, they probably will just be able to like scratch out a little bit of life for themselves. But yeah, we'll see. Like, I don't think that the last 25% of this book hold like a revolution where like everything gets to be just. I think for that I will have to read Mistborn eventually. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It's definitely something that is very compulsory readable. What was I trying to say here? I don't know. Sometimes words get me confused. But yeah, it's like you can't put it down, really. It's definitely engaging. And I do care quite deeply about some of these characters, while I really do not care for some of these other characters. So we'll see. We definitely do have a character that is a little bit Lizzie coded for the Pride and Prejudice reference. However, we are missing one Mr. Darcy. So this is definitely not a retelling. It just has this feel to it, and at the same time it is way more dramatic and we're following way more characters because we're looking at the whole family right here. I think that's all I'm gonna say for now. Let's finish this baby off. So last night I finished reading Tooth and Claw, and I'm here with my final update. So I had a great time reading this book. The ending was definitely very dramatic, the way that all of the different storylines and the siblings came back together, and the way everything unfolded was like very good, like very entertaining. It definitely grabbed all of my attention, and I just had to know that things would work out for these characters. So that was very, very lovely. I really enjoyed the ending, and overall I decided to give this book 4.5 stars. I think while this didn't really like change my life or anything, this was definitely one of the most intriguing books I've read in a while, and I'm really glad that I read it right now when I had the time to just sit down and devour it, because I was just so engaged with the story that I didn't really want to put it down in the end. So I would highly recommend this book if you are interested in it. I know that it is already a little bit older, but from the content, I would say you definitely do not see that. Because I have read a couple of books that are of similar age, and with those I had the feeling that they didn't age quite as well, but this one definitely is very timeless, and I would just highly recommend, especially if you do enjoy those Victorian stories like the Jane Austen novels and stuff like that, where you kind of know, but also feel so much for the characters and are so intrigued. Yeah, it was just great. It was really, really great. And yeah, fantastic, just fantastic. Pick it up. So I think for the end bit now, I want to go into a couple of spoilers for the people who have read this book already. But if you have not read it, I would recommend you leave the video right here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun. Please let me know if you're now interested in picking this book up, and also if you have reached 100 books this year, because for me that's definitely not something that happens every year, but this year and last year we managed to do it. So I would love to hear about that. And for all the other people who want to discuss some spoilers, I want to go into a couple of things at the end. So I think I talked about most of the things already, especially with the world building. I just really loved how they brought in a human at the end. They do have a different word for human, but you can kind of piece together what has happened. They also have kind of like a Jesus figure in this book, so I thought it was very interesting that the author doesn't really hold your hand with the world building, but she just gives you these little hints, and you can piece together the history of the world, which was really fun. Overall, in the end, I definitely cared most about Selendra, just because we follow her the most, I think, in this book, and her romance with whatever his name is, Cher. It was really, really cute, and I think that because she has these typical Lizzie traits from Pride and Prejudice, it is probably the character that readers who enjoyed Jane Austen feel most comfortable with. But I also really liked the storyline with Sebeth, or whatever her name is, the way that she was this long lost heiress, and she made her own life, and the kind of reconciliation she had with her father was just really cute, especially since I don't have the best relationship with my parents, but now that I'm an adult and I have my own life, I'm kind of trying to build that up again. So it was very cool to see that reflected in a book like that as well. And obviously with her being able to make her own choices about her inheritance, it was just really great. It was so nice. And then we have this big finale with the court case, and obviously with Hayner being trapped in her room and almost dying. It was so traumatic and I ate it up. And you have this feeling that in the end it will all work out, because that's just the kind of feel you get from the novel. But at the same time I was like, well, this is a dragon version, so things could still go wrong. But yeah, we have this final court scene where we kind of have them all come together again, and obviously with Davorak being the big evil of the tale and being confronted, and the way that he is this rich bully, and all of our other characters kind of magically get their wealth and their status, and they're just all such good people. I also thought it was very interesting that you have these radicals that basically are left-wing people who are hey, everyone should have the same rights and we should treat our servants as other dragons and stuff like that, especially if you consider that the treatment of the servants was started by humans, and then they kind of got rid of the humans and freed themselves, but they did not free the servants. but it's so realistic, you know what I mean? It's so realistic, but it's also so frustrating. And I just thought it was really funny how in the end a lot of these dragons we were following turned out to be radicals. And yeah, I don't know. It was kind of funny because like you need that to like really empathize with these characters, but at the same time it just like was very like kind of wishful thinking, you know, that they're all just so good, such good people, and because of that they deserve what they get at the end. I also thought the treasure that they find is the funniest thing of them all because it's like so random. They just like fall into this cave and they're like, oh my god, we found like a priceless treasure here, and now basically all of our problems are solved in the end because we have the treasure. It's just like so funny to me. And yeah, as I said, it's just, it really has this thing of like the evil person get what they deserve and all of like our good characters get what they deserve. It's like very traditional in that storyline. But at the same time, as I said in the video again and again, you can see that still this world is so unjust, and you at the end of the book you're like really happy for these characters, but you just in the back of your mind you still know that this world is really fucked up and maybe they have been saved, but there's like so many other dragons who do not get what they deserve and they're still there. And yeah, it was such an interesting experience. I had so much fun with this book. Highly recommend if you've read it. Definitely let me know what you enjoyed about it. I would love to hear that. And make sure that you mark spoilers if you write spoilers in the comments. But that was my 100th book of the year. And now I hope to read 2 more. So I have to get back to reading. So talk to you very soon. Bye!